Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. Well, not actually a episode of the Para Cave podcast, but one that I was involved in, and I had a chat the other day with Joey from the Ruck Infringement podcast, so give him a follow over there on YouTube and also Apple and Spotify as well, Instagram, all those usual places, the same as what the Para Cave podcast is found on. He invited me on his show to do a season preview of the Parramatta Eels for 2025, like I had did with Big Les from Big Les's League, and also Chris Ricketts as well, way back in January as well, the first season preview that I did. So I like to share it around and give a few season previews here and there, get other podcasters' thoughts on the Eels as well as my own. And in this one, we talk about the ins and outs for 2025, our predicted 1 to 17s, and see if they are the same for round one. Now, there will be a podcast come out about that at some stage this week by myself as well. Look, we also dive into a little bit of Supercoach fantasy relevance of the Parramatta Eels players, where we both think that the Parramatta Eels will finish a dynamite player for 2025. So, very interesting to chat with Joey. Joey is a Roosters fan, but I won't hold that against him. But a great bloke who's doing great things in the rugby league content space. So as I said before, give him a follow on Instagram, Facebook, also YouTube, Spotify and Apple as well. It is already up and running on his channels, but I thought I would share it on mine as well. So look, I hope you enjoy. Please comment and let me know your thoughts about our thoughts of the Parramatta Eels season preview. So I will now hand over to Joey. Take it away, Joey.
Legends, welcome back to another team preview from the Ruck Infringement podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joey. We're doing the Parramatta Eels this week. So to join me all the way from the Para Cave, it's the one and only Troy Warner. How are you, Troy?
I'm going fantastic, Joey. And look, it's when we're recording this, it's 1 week away from Las Vegas, and it's 2 weeks away from Parramatta's first game of the year against the Storm. So the NRL season is just around the corner, and I cannot wait.
We're in full flight, my man, full flight, and it is very, very exciting. But let's get straight into it now. Let's go through the ins and outs for 2025 for the Parramatta Eels. Of course, the big one, mate, Jason Riles comes over, brand new head coach there. But let's talk about some players. So for the 2025 ins, we've got Zach Lomax, Isaiah Iongi, Dean Hawkins, Joash Papali'i, Jack Williams, Kitoni Katoga, Josh Adokar, and Ronald Volkman are the main ones there. Now, some really good names, some great fringe players there as well, some good backups. But let's talk about the 2025 outs now. So Ethan Sanders has gone to the Raiders, Blaze Delaney to the Panthers, Ken Gillard to the Titans, Mike Acevo to lead Rhinos, Gutherson to the Dragons, Dejan Arce to Castleford, Kai Rodwell to Wakefield Trinity, Makeshi Makatoa has been released, Morgan Harper to the North Sydney Bears, Ofahiki Ogden has been released, and of course Zach Sini to Castleford. Now, going through those ins and outs, mates, you must be very excited about a lot of these ins.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, off the top of my head, or off the top of the list, probably Zach Lomax is probably the most exciting one to see, I think. We all saw the year that he had last year, not only for the Dragons, but also New South Wales and Australia. I think the Dally M Winger of the Year, last year. So excited to see him play. Josh Adokar, that's going to be an interesting one, I think. He's got that experience, grand final winner, looking to rebuild his career after the sudden exit from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Parramatta have reached out and gave him a lifeline, so to speak, and looking forward to seeing him. Unfortunately, he won't be available round 1. Round 3 is when he'll be available against his old team, so looking forward to that. And look, Dean Hawkins, probably a good backup for Mitchell during Origin period, which is good because we saw last year that Parramatta had a lot of injuries, especially with Mitchell Moses, and we never really sorted a halves combination whilst he was out.
Yep.
So good to have that depth. Isaiah Iongi is coming across from the Panthers, so we all know what the Panthers system's like. It's probably the best in the world, I guess, when it comes to producing rugby league talent, or one of the best. And he's come across from that. Only played the one NRL game, so he'll be looking to impress coach Jason Riles, which I think he already has. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but Katoga from the Bulldogs, he looked impressive in the trial against Newcastle.
Yeah, very good.
Has a bit of an offload game into him as well. And Joash Papali, he obviously came from the Bulldogs as well. He can play a number of positions as well. So good depth signings at the moment for Parramatta. So something that Parramatta probably hasn't had in the last few years. So pretty happy with the ins that we have got secured for this year. Oh,
yeah,
and Ronald Volkman. Sorry, I forgot to mention Ronald Volkman.
Of course.
He's on a train and trial deal, so he won't be available until, I think, round 11. But certainly impressed against Newcastle in that first trial. And again, that's another depth signing for the halves for Parramatta, in case Dylan Brown or Mitchell Moses goes down. So another good depth signing there.
Yeah, mate, some exciting talent and an exciting roster for Parramatta for 2025. I'm really interested in the signing of Jack Williams. Now, came over from the Sharks.
Yes.
We know what Jack could have been. I think a lot of people at the Sharks wanted him to really take over the Paul Gallen place at the Sharks, become that lock. He never really hit those heights. He's come over to Parramatta. He's playing in the front row, which quietly I think he may keep the spot there. And he looked really good, scored a try as well. Mate, excited about Jack Williams?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I forgot to mention him just before. I'm glad you did. But, yeah, look, I think Jason Riles is looking for a slimmer forward pack, and he sort of fits that mould in being a smaller front rower. I think Jason Riles mentioned at the Members Forum, Eels Members Forum a couple of weeks ago, that he asked Dale Finucane, the former Cronulla player, about Jack Williams, and he had a very good approval of him and said that he was a great player, great trainer, etc. And he sort of basically ended up the conversation with that Jack Williams was he's got Jack Williams at Parramatta what Dale Finucane was at Cronulla. So
yeah, wow.
And we've seen that now, that he is now in the leadership group at Parramatta.
Yep.
Along with Mitchell obviously being the captain, Jermaine Hopgood and Junior Paolo. So a new player to the club has made his way into the leadership group. So that just shows you how highly Jason Riles rates him. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing him play throughout 2025.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. It's very exciting. But let's jump into our predicted lineups for the 2025 season, who we think is going to line up in round 1. Now, for those who might be listening for the first time, I'll go through the players. I'll see if Troy agrees with me, if he's got anyone different. We'll give our players we think may line up there. And if they are injured, we'll say, look, this player is injured, but they would have been there, and we'll give you an alternative. All right. Let's start at the back. Of course, he's been lighting up the trials. Iongi at fullback. I don't think anyone's gunning for his spot at the moment, mate.
No, I think he probably has secured that fullback spot. As I mentioned before, Joash Papali'i is probably another one that is vying for that spot. But I think the last 2 weeks, Isaiah Iongi has just shown that he's probably got that number 1 spot, and I think that's why he was brought to the club. So, yep, no, I agree with that one.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's talk the wingers now. Zach Lomax, he's an easy lock straight into that side, and he'll get the goal kicking as well. On the other wing, I've got Josh Adokar just to give him a go. But, of course, we've seen what Sean Russell has done over the past few years. And, look, he wouldn't go lost in a Parramatta jersey either. Have you got Zach Lomax and Adokar or something different?
Well, yeah, Josh Adokar is definitely a lock in for one of those winger positions. As I mentioned before, he won't be able to start until round 3, so there'll be an opportunity for a couple of wingers to gain a spot in those first couple of rounds. But after round 3, yeah, definitely I would have Josh Adokar there. Look, I do agree with you, Zach Lomax on the wing. However, I don't think he will play wing. I think he will play centre.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I would have him on the wing myself, just because of that form last year. But he believes he could be an even better centre, so I think he'll be lining up in the centre position. I think Sean Russell will get that first crack at that wing spot or a wing spot in round 1. And possibly, I think Jake Tungo might get a start on the other wing. I think Bailey Simonson is another one, but I think he is still recovering from injury, and I don't think we'll see him in the early rounds. So I think they'll go with those two for the round 1 team, I think.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, it's funny with Lomax, isn't it? I mean, he was one of the best wingers in the comp that doesn't think he's a winger, so it's very strange. But no, you're exactly right there. I think Russell definitely can fit straight in there. If we look into the centres, obviously you've had Lomax there and probably Penasini on the other side. I've got Penasini. I was looking at moving Sean Russell into my centres if he doesn't play on the wing, but as you said, with Adokar out, he probably takes that spot anyway. Mate, are there any other young centres coming through? Anyone vying for spots there?
Oh, look, I mean, as you just said, yeah, Will Penasini will be a lock in that wing position. I probably shouldn't keep on saying lock. People might think I'm saying he should play lock, but he's a given.
He's going to play at 13.
Yeah, he's a given, I think, for that other centre spot along with Zach Lomax. But in terms of other players, I guess you have Will's brother Richard Penasini as well, who was injured most of last year, but he will probably play New South Wales Cup this year.
Yep.
But he can play centre, so he may get a crack. And that'd be interesting to have both brothers in the centres, definitely for Parramatta. That'd be something I don't think has ever been done before. I'm just trying to think. I don't think the Mortimer brothers, maybe with Peter and Chris, maybe. I don't know, but
yeah, possibly.
Yeah, but I also do agree that Sean Russell could play centre position as well. I think he played there a little bit last season, and I think is it Jordan Samrani as well. I think he played in the trial games. He's a centre as well. So there's a few options there again, if any of those two go down, but and during representative periods as well.
Yeah, mate, it's a great shout there. I was just thinking of some brothers that may have played together for Parramatta, the Keating boys, Matt and Chris. Just their names just came into my head.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just thinking of brothers that have played in the centres together.
Of course, in the centres,
that's all. But I mean, if you want to go down that path, there's the Kalis brothers, the Homarsh brothers.
Yeah, there's a few, isn't there, at Para?
Yeah, there have been over the years. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. All right, let's jump into the halves. The halves speak for themselves. Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses, the captain. Nothing really there, I think, barring injury, where we talked about the likes of Ronald Volkman and, of course, Dean Hawkins as well. But I think they're pretty much in. Let's move into the front row now. For me, mate, look, Junior Palo, he'll be back soon. Obviously, he didn't play in the trials. I think he's straight into that number 10 spot. Number 8 for me, as I spoke on before, I've actually got Jack Williams starting. With Sean Lane out, I think when Sean Lane's back, they'll move him into the middle. But I'm actually going to start with Jack Williams. I think with his experience, I think he could be a really, really good middle up front. And, of course, my 9 is Brendan Hands to start with. Do you have anything different?
Look, no, I don't. I've got that exact front row as well. Junior, Brendan Hands and Jack Williams as well. I think that will probably be the round one team. Some would say, is Junior a better player off the bench? He did a little bit of that last season. But I just think that he will be starting. He slimmed down a hell of a lot too, Junior. So, again, looking for that quicker, faster playing style that Jason Riles wants to implement. The other person there that potentially might get that number 8 spot is Joe Offahengawi, although he may come off the bench as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether he gets the start or Jack will. But no, I probably agree with you there for the 8, 9 and 10 in the front row.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into the second row now. Second row is really interesting for me. I feel like Bryce Cartwright is a little bit on the outs with Riles at the moment. My second row looks a little bit with new boys. I've got Kelma Tulagi, of course. He's been doing pretty well in the trials. A couple of missed tackles, but nothing to really write home about. So I've got him on one spot. And on my other side, I actually really like Katoga. And I would love to see him jag a starting spot. I think he's a really, really good prospect. As you said before, he's got a great offload game as well. So I'm going to go Tulagi and Katoga. And then, of course, my lock is Hopgood. Do you have anything different for us?
Well, I do. Obviously, I've got Jermaine. He's a lock for lock. So lock him in. And Kelma, I like that shout as well. Ran a great line against Newcastle off a Ronald Volkman pass and scored a try in that game. Didn't have the best of games against the Tigers on Friday night in the second trial, but then again, not many para players did, unfortunately. But look, I'm expecting a big season from him this season. But the other player I've put in there for round one is Ryan Madison into the second row. But again, it's another depth position that Parramatta has because you have the likes of, I guess, Luca Moretti, Charlie Guymer as well to fall into that spot. Sean Lane's not available for about 4 weeks, I think, until about round 5. So he may slot into that side somewhere. As you mentioned, Bryce Cartwright, I don't think... I haven't really thought that he's had the best of trials against Newcastle and the Tigers. Unfortunately, we know what he can do, though. He may be in the plans for a bench spot, but I don't think a starting spot.
Yeah, look, I have to agree. I really like Cardi, and I thought last year was a really, really good season for him, but just not hitting the heights so far this season. Look, let's talk about a bit of the bench makeup now. I think they'll go with Joey Lussick at 14 to cover that second hooker role. Of course, Ryan Madison on the bench, Joe Offahengawi, and I've got Bryce Cartwright filling in that last spot there. Do you have anything different for us?
Well, I do. I have put Offahengawi onto the bench, but I've also put Charlie Guymer and Luca Moretti onto the bench as well.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. And
my other player that I've put on the bench as well is Riley Smith as well. I really like the way that he played in both the trial games. I like his delivery out of dummy half. He sort of probably reminds me a little bit of Reid Marnie when he first started at Parramatta. Although he probably doesn't have the niggle in him now that Reid Marnie has in his routine these days with the Canterbury, but really like the look of him. He's got speed, great passing game, and I would probably put him in as 14 as well instead of Lussick. Yeah, very nice. Look, he was very good in the trials, and it's good to have that depth. It's good to have the options there available. So, look, fantastic. That is our predicted 1-17 for round one. Look, we might not be right. We don't know everything. We know most things, but not everything. So please take it with a grain of salt what we say.
let's jump into a bit of a Supercoach relevance. Of course, the Ruck Infringement podcast, we have a Supercoach comp running, the Ruck Pod. Check it out. We do have 65 people in there already. Some fantastic prizes. SC rings have come on board. We do have a Supercoach championship ring up for grabs. Very nice. They look incredible as well. So a massive shout out to SC rings for that. And I'll give you a little sneak peek. There is an NRL Fantasy one and a Supercoach one. So this is the NRL Fantasy. So it looks very nice.
Okay.
So you can see it says Champion 2025 on it. It's got an NRL logo as well.
Nice.
So it looks like a championship ring. You'd win if you won the premiership. So a couple of good prizes there. So make sure you join our comps, and I will throw the codes in the description. But let's jump into a bit of Supercoach, a bit of fantasy relevant players that we think may be good for your team, some that might not, and some to steer clear of completely. All right, let's start at the very top. Now, Zach Lomax, mate, 773K, centre wing. Now, premium option in the centres will probably have the goal kicking over Mitch Moses from all reports at the moment. Mate, first off, is he in your team, and can you justify the price tag?
Look, he's not in my team, I don't think. To be honest, I only did up my team tonight, so
Nice.
I'm not a massive Supercoach player, to be honest. But I do enjoy it. But no, I have not got him in my team. But you're right, he has taken over the goal kicking duties from Mitchell, which will probably be even better for Mitchell's game because it'll be one less thing that he has to worry about. So. A few points added for him, no doubt, throughout the season. Hopefully he can kick plenty of goals. So that's probably about the right sort of price range for him.
Yeah, he's not in my team either. I just think at that price to start off with, there's a lot of cheaper options that you can play in your centre wing. But Zach, after Origin, would be fantastic for the run home. Let's look down at Jermaine Hopgood, of course, 657K. Priced pretty well, considering coming off an injury last season. Look, he is a fantastic option to have. I think if you've got him in your team, I'm definitely not going to steer you the other way and say don't get him, because he is great to have in your second row. Personally, I don't have him at the moment, but I think that if I lost a second rower, he's definitely one I would look at. Again, I start with cheap in my second rows and in my centre wings, and I go expensive in my mids and halves to start the season, and then I ease into that after Origin period. But I want to jump down a little bit to Dylan Brown. Now, 5'8" halfback dual, which is very, very juicy. 651K. He's in a lot of teams. So a lot of people, I had him a lot last year, got me some fantastic points. From what we saw in the trials, he looks really, really on, mate. Can you justify getting Dylan Brown into your side?
I probably could. I think it's a big season for Dylan this year after the previous two. 2022, he had a massive season, getting Parramatta to the grand final, having that good combination with Sean Lane on the edge. So, I think he's up for a big year this year. So he could score plenty of points throughout the year, I think. As you said, he's probably in plenty of people's teams. He's not in my side, but certainly would be a good buy, I think.
Yeah, he's not in mine yet. I'm still debating whether to get him in or not. Of course, let's move down to Mitch Moses, halfback, 628K. Probably the cheapest he's been in Supercoach in a long time. A very good premium option. If you don't have the likes of Cleary, Hines, or Cherry Evans, Mitch Moses is probably the next best thing. If you do have him, I'm definitely not going to say don't get him. He is fantastic and a classy outfit. The only problem is with him not goal kicking is he will lose certain points for that. So he may be one to avoid to start the year. But again, look at mid-season to see if you want to bring him in. Of course, don't forget he probably plays Origin again. So if he does play Origin, you will lose him for a couple of weeks. But you can just swap out there. Mate, I want to move down the order a little bit, go past some of these other players. And one that I want to go to is Jack Williams. Now, we spoke on him before. He's named at second row in Supercoach, but if he does start in the front row, we'll get that dual. So you'll be able to play him in the second row and the front row. 455K. It's very, very good for a starting front rower. He is one that's coming into my team. I was very impressed on the weekend. Just wanted to see how he was playing. But yeah, he's one that I'm really, really keen on. I think I just want to wait till team lists to see if he actually gets named in the front row, and if he does and he lands that duel, I'm bringing him in. But the guy I really want to talk to you about is Kelma Tuolagi, 433k second row. If he does land that second row spot that we think he will, and he's starting, I think you got to get him in at that price point. It's very, very cheap for a second rower. He is currently in my team. How about yours, mate?
Yeah, again, he is in my side. I have heard plenty of Supercoach players saying that he is good value to get into your side. I think he's going to play on Mitchell Moses' edge, I think. So I'm also tipping Mitchell to have a massive year this year as well. So if he can get those, try assists, then Kelman will be scoring the tries. So like he did against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. I'm expecting him to have a big year. So he will score plenty of points, I think. So yeah, good buy.
Mate, I love it. Very good buy. Let's move down a little bit to some cheapies and possibly some for the Black Book. Kitty Own Katoga, who we spoke on before from the Bulldogs, now 232k. If he does land that second row spot, which I've got a feeling he may, that's a must-have. His break-even is going to be so low. He's going to make you so much cash if he's starting second rower. I think if you don't have him, just wait till Team List Tuesday. If he gets named, throw him in. Even if it is for a couple of weeks, he'll make you 200, 250 grand in cash, and then you can upgrade to someone else. But I want to move down to Charlie Geimer, 232k second row as well. Look, even with Charlie on the bench, we saw how he was in the trial, scored a fantastic meat pie. If he can sort of channel that during the season, he could be a really good cheap buy as well, and one to definitely black book and watch just with Team List Tuesday again. Most of these, it's based on what happens in that round one. If they get picked, get them in. If they don't, then don't. But the big one that everyone should have in their team at the moment is Isaiah Iongi, starting fullback, 232k. I think he's almost going to be 100% owned. And if he's not, what are you doing? Get him in your side. He's probably going to be the starting fullback. If he plays how he has in the trials, he's probably not going to be taken out of that spot. He's going to play 80 minutes. He's going to score tries. It's just the perfect combination for Supercoach. But, mate, do any of those interest you? And is there anyone else that we should be talking about?
I do have Isaiah Iongi in my side as a fullback, as you mentioned there.
Good man. Good man.
A good price, and he probably will be the starting fullback. Can also score points through try assists as well. We saw him throw a lovely pass on the weekend for, I think, Sean Russell's try. So he does have a bit of ball playing ability in him. Look, to be honest, no one else really stands out for me from the Parramatta side in terms of Supercoach. Potentially, maybe Brendan Hands, potentially Luca Moretti as well. But other than that, I think most of the other players will probably play New South Wales Cup.
Yeah, I like it. Look, a bit of relevance there for your Supercoach season this year. Again, take it with what we say with a grain of salt, because we are not masters. We are just podcasters, but we do our best. But that is it for our Supercoach section. Don't forget, those links are in our description. Join our Supercoach comp and our fantasy comp. Of course, the fantasy draft comp running as well. The draft day will be next Sunday, so which is Vegas Day. So make sure you check that out. If you want to join our draft, join it in the description. All right, mate, let's talk about your beloved Parramatta Eels now. It's no secret that since 2022, Parramatta haven't really set the world alight. We saw them make the grand final, and then it's been a bit of a decline. The end of last year, Riles took over. It started to pick up again. Mate, first off, I want you to talk to me about this season, what you're excited for, and where do you see Parramatta finishing?
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, since the grand final, it probably hasn't been the best of seasons. There's been a lot of distractions off field. There was obviously the Dylan Brown suspension, and then the sacking of Brad Arthur last year. So, look, what I'm excited for this season is a brand new start. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to wait to see what's going to happen round one, and throughout this year. New coach, new players. So yeah, I'm looking excited to see that. As I mentioned before, a lot of depth in the Parramatta side as well. Hopefully we don't suffer too many injuries, and we don't have to use those depth players as much. But in case we do, they are there. And just the fact, I'm excited for the speed that's in the team this year as well. Something that probably we haven't had the last 3, 4, 5 years maybe. So with the players of Iongi, Josh Adokar, Bailey Simonson as well, if he can get back to his fast pace as well. But and look, from early signs of the team playing so far, and words from Jason Riles as well, is that they're going to play a different brand of football. They're going to play a faster brand of football. They've got a different body sizes for the forwards as well. So, as I mentioned before, Junior's slim right down. So hopefully that doesn't impact his power, but it will definitely give him that speed. So they're looking to play a fast game. Coach Jason Riles has said, look, it's not going to happen overnight, but he's excited to see it. All the pre-season training happen throughout the year and what he's seen, and put it onto the game field. So, I'm just excited to get into the season. Where I think they will finish, look, I think I've said to a lot of people, I think they will make the 8, and I have said 6th spot. So,
very nice.
A lot of people have said that's probably ridiculous because of where we finished last year and the year before. But I just think it's that unknown about what these players can do together, and just the excitement around the place. And look, we don't know. New coaches in the past have come out and blitzed it and won premierships in their first year. I'm not saying that Parramatta will win the comp, even though I'd love them to, but I just think that it's the unknown of what this side can do. I mean, Mitchell Moses hasn't played the first 2 trials of the year, so he hasn't had any game fitness under his belt yet. So we don't know what he can do. So I'm just excited for season 2025, and I think 6th position is the spot.
I love it, mate. I've also got Para finishing in the top 8 this year. I think Riles is a fantastic coach. I'm really, really excited to see Parramatta go this year. I've always had a soft spot for him, of course. Haven't won a comp for a long time. You want to see that. You want to see those teams trying to get there and getting close to that premiership that has eluded them for such a long period. But mate, I think you're right. You're right on the money with Riles. He's that sort of coach. He's getting the best out of his players. The players seem like they want to play for him too. He got rid of the deadwood. He got rid of the players that didn't want to be at the club, and he's brought in players that play into the system, players that want to be there and want to play for him. So, look, I'm expecting Parramatta about 7th, so I'm pretty close to you as well. Okay, yep. I've got them just scraping into that top 8. I think vastly improved from last year. Vastly improved. I think round 1 we're going to see a really, really good game against Melbourne. Cannot wait. It's going to be fantastic too. So keep an eye out for the Eels and let's see where they end up. But mate, before we finish off, let's talk about a dynamite player for season 2025. It can be a new player, a rookie, or someone who's been there for 10 plus years. Mate, do you have a dynamite player for us?
Well, look, I'm gonna say 2, and I did mention him before. Riley Smith. I think he's going to break out into the first grade season. I mean, it can be probably a little bit unfair, I guess, putting a little bit of pressure on the young lad, and that's probably only coming from fans because of his trial form. But I'd love to see him get an opportunity and blitz it in first grade. Without putting that pressure on him, of course. But I actually do think that Mitchell Moses will have a Dally M winning season this year. If he can stay fit and play like he did in the Origin Series and for Australia last year, and we did see flashes of brilliance last year for Parramatta, but not enough of it. So I think he is warming to the task of becoming captain of the side as well. So I think he is up for a big year, and he'll want to prove why he is the captain of the side, and also lift that premiership trophy at the end of the year as well. He supported the club as a kid, so if he manages to do that, well then that'll be a dream come true for him. But if he can certainly replicate that Origin playing style that he had, he got man of the match in game number 2. And pretty much got that Origin Series winning try in game number 3, then Parramatta will be out for a big season.
Mate, I love that. I think you're right. Mitch Moses is definitely primed for a big year. Fantastic shout there with Riley Smith as well. Mate, my dynamite player for 2025, I've raved on about him. My good mate, Jack Williams, I think he is primed for a big year in the front row. I think he could potentially keep that spot his own for majority of the season, barring injury. I think this is the perfect signing for Parramatta. As we spoke before, he brings experience, but he also brings just grit and determination. And I love seeing that in a forward and in a front rower as well. So Jack Williams, for me, very high on this bloke. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. But that is it for our Dynamite players, and that's it for our Eels team preview. Of course, this will, as you're watching, it's on YouTube. You can check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, and all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Troy, you want to give a quick plug to the Parracave podcast, mate? Where can people find you?
Yeah, mate, thank you very much for that. Probably the same places as where yours is available, to be honest. YouTube,
Yep.
Apple, Spotify, also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. So, yeah, pretty much the same spots as you. So, yeah, posting a bit of content here and there. So, looking forward to it, and throughout the year, and posting some interviews and the like. And yeah, it's good fun. So that's where you can find me. Please give me a follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Check him out. Parracave Podcast, one of the best.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parracave Podcast. See you next time.